4, roger, roger. You're good, readable. It's just a lot of stations stepping on each other. Roger, you're good, readable. We win.
What's going on, everyone? Sergeant First Class Ellis Noto with the Indiana National Guard back again for another edition of the Lima Charlie Podcast. I'm joined by my co-host, Sergeant First Class Robbie Schweitzer, and today's very special guest from IST, the Interstate Transfer. I have Sergeant First Class Lorenzo Cruz, and Sergeant First Class, I don't know your first name.
Mary.
Sergeant First Class Mary Carter. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Lima Charlie Podcast.
Thanks for having us.
And thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Would you guys introduce yourselves? Tell us your current MOS and how long you've served, and kind of what's your current role here in the National Guard?
Go ahead, sorry.
Like you said, my name is Sergeant First Class Mary Carter. I am a 79 Tango. I'm a recruiter here in Indiana. I currently recruit out of Shelbyville and Decatur County.
What was your MOS prior to becoming a recruiter?
I'm a 68 Whiskey healthcare specialist.
Healthcare specialist.
Cool.
A real MOS.
A real
The real
MOS.
There you go.
How long have you been in?
A total of almost 16 years. Brand new to Indiana, served 15 and a half of those in the beautiful state of Kentucky.
Gotcha.
We'll count it. We can count that. That's fine.
Thank you.
How long you been in recruiting?
4 years total, 4.5.
4 years total. That's really cool. Sergeant Cruz, tell us about yourself, because you're not you're not the whole time in the Army, right?
No. So my name is Sergeant First Class Lorenzo Wayne Cruz II. I was born in South Bend, Indiana. And in about 2004, I joined active duty Navy. I was a seaman at the time, and then ended up becoming a hospital corpsman. And then after hospital corpsman, I became an optician. So it'd be like an ASI.
Oh, cool.
Mhm.
So like a 68, what is that, Echo for our optometry specialist?
No, that's dental. You don't know. Just stop.
Oh my goodness, that's awesome. And how long you been here in recruiting?
Let's see, since 2015. To go back a little bit, I got out of active duty Navy in 2012, and then did about a year of the Navy Reserves, and then switched over to the Indiana Army National Guard with a Sergeant First Class, at that time, Sergeant First Class Corey Jenkins, who is now the CSM for Recruiting and Retention Battalion. He was my recruiter, and I brought my whole packet, that prior service guy that brings everything, and you're like, got him. Perfect. I don't need to do any work. But I did have to go back to basic training at, I think I was 32 years old. So I was like herding cats.
Oh goodness, can't imagine.
Yeah, it was more of a more physical. That was a little bit more tougher, but I was able to pull through. And then I went to 68 Alpha School, biomedical technician down there in Fort Sam, Houston, and joined the recruiting team in April 2015, and been here since.
Awesome. So talking IST, the interstate transfer stuff, does a residency requirement exist for a soldier to be a member of a particular state's National Guard?
No, a residency requirement does not exist, and so in interstate transfer, we would say short ISTs. The regulation that covers that is going to be NGR 600-200, Section 5. 4-18, I'm sorry. But in there, it doesn't have any residency requirement. Now, each state, we call it our 54 kingdoms.
Oh yeah,
does have their own nuances, but it is not required at all.
Okay.
We have soldiers that will live in Ohio, Kentucky, Michigan, that their residence is there, but they'll drill here in Indiana.
What might lead somebody to live in another state but be in a different state's guard? What kind of benefits might they have for joining a different state guard than where they're currently living?
That's a great question. And, being in this position now for about 3 years, one of the biggest things that we see is opportunity. People will look at the force structure within their own state, and when they take a look at Indiana, we have a majority of the MOSs that are available. And so, like, let's say you live on the border, right, of Michigan and Indiana. we have an MOS that you're looking for, and it just so happens that it's within a distance that you're willing to drive, and you're willing to serve in Indiana, so you can transfer to our state.
Is there any particular MOS that you're seeing people wanting to come to Indiana for, that they're like more so than others?
With Indiana being predominantly infantry, we'll see a lot of infantry, especially in your Fort Wayne, Gary, South Bend, Louisville areas. We'll see a lot of transfers from there coming to that MOS. Lately, I've been seeing a lot of 25 series. And people are starting to notice that the marketing that we have out there on those active duty bases, and even in the IST world, the interstate transfer, that becoming coming into the 25 series, they have an opportunity to later on in time join the cyber battalion. And so we'll have these conversations that this could be a feeder MOS to join the cyber battalion, but you will have to reclass, or you can come in and start building your resume. So when that time does come for you wanting to apply to that the cyber battalion, you'll have the experience and the feeder MOS to come in.
Yeah, because Indiana does have, cyber. They have SFAB. They have SF. So there's so many opportunities here in this state that may not exist in other states. Is that right?
That is correct.
What does it look like when a soldier wants to, I guess ISR, right, is the term where they're going from active duty to the National Guard? I know when I ETS'd off of active duty Army, I had to speak to our CCC Reserve Component Career Counselor. What does that process like if I'm an active duty soldier wanting to come to the National Guard? Can I do a 368 and get out early, or do I have to wait until the end of my contract to come over to the Guard?
So that is a great question, and there's many layers to that. We'll go ahead and start off with the 368, right? So a DD 368 is a conditional release from a branch, a component of the military to switch over to another. It is very tough to see our active duty brothers and sisters to be able to process one and get it approved. I have seen it approved. Pivoting towards what is more common is soldiers are going to be able to get close to their ETS window, which is their 6-month window. And at that time, they have 3 choices. They can go into the Army Reserve, the Army National Guard, or into the Individual Ready Reserve, the IRR. Most soldiers are going to end up picking the Reserve or National Guard to be able to cut down their MSO, their military service obligation, and to reclass and go back to where they want to go, back to their home of record.
I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. So
my apologies.
I apologize. It is 6 months to when a soldier can actually contract from active duty into a National Guard. Now they'll still be they'll still be on active duty, but you can sign that contract and you would be considered an ISR, which is an in-service recruit. To be able to get something facilitated like that, you would get with your active duty base reserve component transition office, RCT, and sit down with an RCCC, with a reserve component career counselor, and they'll be able to talk to you about the different options that are available for you depending on what you're looking for. And when people are wanting to come to Indiana, I see that it's 3 things. It's going to be family, employment, education, and all those things kind of culminate into opportunity.
When they do switch, they sign that contract. Do they pick a new MOS? Does their time in service that they previously served, does that count towards? I know Sergeant Carter, you mentioned 15 and a half years, right? That counted when you came over here to Indiana, right?
It did.
Now, were you able to pick your MOS when you came to Indiana? I know you're a 79 Tango, so it may not necessarily have applied to you, but if you do switch, IST or ISR, do you pick a new MOS, or how does that work?
So you do have the opportunity to reclass if you want. You could stay within the same MOS, but this is kind of like your opportunity to reclass. So if a soldier does ask to reclass, what I'll do is I'll take their line scores and put into an enlisted MOS finder and present it to them. And hey, you can pick 5. What's your top 5? And there's an understanding that there might be a service obligation for that reclass. But then this is something that also works out for Indiana because there's a return of investment for
Of
that
course.
reclass, but the soldier also gets to pick something maybe they didn't get to pick before.
And they're picking their MOS, where they're stationed at, all of that, right? They're not. It's not like when you maybe enlist in a different organization and you're kind of sent wherever. You're going to pick, that unit, that MOS before you sign the contract. Is that right?
So that there is some truth to that. Sometimes we may not have something located close to their home of record, but we do offer them, hey, there's like, let's say if they live in Indianapolis, we have something available in Kokomo, or we have something available in Franklin.
Okay.
Which
so,
one
yeah,
would you like to pick?
we're still within, an hour.
Yes.
That's pretty cool.
So it's choice based upon availability.
Yeah.
Correct.
Other potential opportunities, or what potential opportunities are available to an active duty service member in the National Guard? Why would they maybe pick the National Guard over, the Army Reserves?
Well, a couple that
This is for either you. You're both recruiters, so either one of you.
Roger. So we'll go ahead and start with the ISRs. What I see is, you have 54 National Guards competing for contracts, right, on
Yep.
these active duty bases. About half of those soldiers that contracted to active duty from Indiana are going to come back here. The other half are coming again for employment, family, education. So we have about 711 soldiers that come to us every single year from active duty with an honorable discharge. Half of those are from Indiana, and the other half are from a totally different state. When I sit there and look at the marketing and listen to what soldiers are saying, what the RCCCs are saying, it's coming down to what are we willing to offer them, right? Do they have, or do they have my MOS? Can I reclass? Is it going to be better for my family? Um, if I reclass, what options are available? And so we're seeing this trend, especially where it's starting going to the 25 series, the 35 series, to the cyber battalion, that people are wanting to get into a technical position. We are seeing that trend. We do get soldiers that are coming off active duty, and most of them have done their homework already, and they're linking up with our the SF ACO 220 down there in Camp Atterbury. We do get some calls for the SFAB as well.
That's pretty cool. Sergeant Carter, anything to add? I mean, you came from Kentucky.
I think the big thing between us and the reserves, I think we can all agree being recruiters, is our education benefits are going to way outweigh the reserves. And I think sometimes coming off active duty, because I myself was active duty prior to the National Guard, I didn't have time to go to college, and they don't pay 100%. So that was a big thing for me. Like, why join the National Guard was I wanted my college completely paid for, and maybe keep that GI Bill in my pocket for my kids.
And you're referring to the additional state educational benefits that a National Guardsman gets on top of the federal benefits that everyone
Yes,
gets, right?
Exactly.
Regarding educational benefits, is there a requirement for someone to physically reside here in Indiana to be eligible for in-state, tuition?
So, from my understanding, it requires that a veteran or a member of the Indian Army National Guard will pay no more than the in-state rate, as long as they're part of the Indiana Army National Guard. That's what matters.
And we're not reading off cue cards here, but you're referring to Indiana Code 2114-12.2, right?
That is correct.
Off the top of my head.
Roger, that is awesome that you remembered that.
It's it's the law school thing. No, so if I understand correctly, it sounds like just if you're a member of the National Guard, you're eligible for that in-state tuition rate.
That is correct.
That's pretty cool.
And that's one of the things that like I see from the field with interstate transfers or ISRs, is that they're like, hey, what kind of education benefits do you guys have? And like, man, you guys offer 100% tuition. I'm like, yeah, 100%. It's 30 credits, during the school year. Take advantage of it. You could save your post 9/11 for your family and put that in the back pocket. And,
You're right. I mean, I literally had the National Guard pay for my undergrad. I'm using my post 9/11 for law school, right? So those opportunities do exist, and it's great because I'm going to graduate without any debt or limited debt, which so many of our civilian friends don't have that opportunity. So
Can you expand a little bit on how we're able to offer those education benefits separate and apart from what active duty or reserve can offer them. Because we've mentioned a couple times now that a lot of people are choosing the National Guard when they're coming off active duty, particularly because of our education benefits. And it's a cool little buzz phrase to say 100% tuition, but what's that actually look like? Understanding that you're not an education benefits specialist per se.
Roger. So let's say I haven't been to the class, but I do remember what's on the flyers, right? So my understanding is that the Indiana Army National Guard Supplemental Grant will pay up to 100% tuition to any public university, college, community college here in Indiana, and that will be up to 30 credits during the school year. What that does for the soldier, somebody that's coming to Indiana, is that it gives you opportunities to be able to pursue your education, whether it's going to be at a community college, a university, an apprenticeship program. There's multiple opportunities for you to pursue your education and achieve your goals. In the long run, it will save you money. You'll be able to, whether get your certificates or your degree. And if you have the post 9/11, the Indian Army National Guard Supplemental Grant paid for your education, and now you have the post 9/11 on the back burner that you can utilize for yourself or dependents, depending on how do you want to use that.
You're a postgraduate or like your dependents, and you didn't touch it. You might have your bachelor's and master's paid for by the Indiana National Guard through a combination of FTA and NGSG. That's pretty awesome. That's really cool.
Does that help answer your question there, Sergeant?
It does. It does, absolutely. So we talked about this a little bit already. Let's say that somebody's coming into Indiana. They have a particular MOS that we don't have. So let's say they have
68 Romeo Veterinary Food Inspection Specialist.
Sure.
That's a great MOS.
A great MOS.
We're not forcing needs of the Army on them per se. Are they going to be able to have a little bit of decision in what it is they end up taking?
Oh, definitely, Sergeant. And this happens, I'd say probably about average about 10 soldiers a year. We'll get that request from whether it's active duty or the interstate transfers. We just don't have their MOS. And so what I'll do is I will pull their line scores, put it into an enlisted MOS finder, and ask them to pick their top 5. And then I'll go ahead and start fighting for them, finding them a slot, letting them know, and then also letting the strength managers know that we have a reclass, and the soldier knows that there might be a service obligation with that reclass. But this is an opportunity for them that maybe they didn't have in the past. And I just had one of those just recently from Louisiana, and she was like, "Hey, I really wanted to become a 42 Alpha, and I want a reclass." Okay, too easy. Pull up the vacancy roster. Hey, we got 3 slots. Then I'll lock one down for you. Sure? She's like, "Yeah, I want to do that." I was like, "There'll be a service obligation." She's like, "That's fine." Sent her the documents to sign, and she was excited. Couldn't believe it. She's like, "I can't believe this. This is real." I'm like, "Yeah, this is real. This is Indiana. We're gonna take care of you."
How often when they reclass are they going back through a full AIT versus a transition course that might be a little bit shorter? Is it a case-by-case basis? Is it 50-50? What's the outlook on that?
I would say it's definitely going to be a case-by-case basis. It really just depends on, what's the MOS, and then is there a short course for that available within the Indian Army National Guard. I know, like for me, like when I reclassed, I went to 68 Alpha School. I had to go through the full thing, and it was a great. It was actually the hardest course I ever been to in my whole life, but it was awesome.
Outside of recruiting school, of course, right?
Yeah, I would say recruiting SQI-4 definitely has a lot of its memories. Definitely, shift control find, and the 79 Tango course conversion. I think I went to the last class. That was an even faster shift control find. But yes,
oh my goodness,
that was a great course.
Yeah.
So when a soldier ISTs, you had mentioned sending some documents over. Is there a new contract? I mean, what are they signing?
So there's 2 forms here in Indiana that we specifically have in our own kingdom, right? So we have the NGB 22.5, which is standard, and that's going to be your contract. It's not adding to the current contract. It's just stating that you are switching with the remaining time that you have on your contract to another state. And it has like your old unit information, your new unit information. So it kind of breaks everything down for you. This is where you're leaving, and this is where you're going. The other form is the DA 5960, which is going to be your basic allowance for housing, and it's basically just kind of helping out that soldier and the unit already.
Yeah.
We get that set up. They sign those two documents. We'll get that set up to where they can sign in person, and then we'll send the NGB 225 to the losing state, and then they will go into IPSA, cut the transfer order, and then we'll pick them up on our end.
What else? That's it? There's no MEPS. There's two documents, one of them being a BH form, one of them being an NGB 22-5. That's it?
That is it.
Are you kidding me?
That is.
Oh
I've seen
God.
it done in person.
Wow.
That's it.
Down at HRC, and it can literally be done in minutes.
Sergeant Carter, what was your experience
Yeah.
like going through the IST?
With
I
those-
understand they shouldn't right next to the IST coordinator.
No, it
but-
was exactly
With
exactly
all
like
those
Sergeant.
documents.
It was exactly like Sergeant Cruz said. For me personally, I knew kind of where I wanted to be in Indiana, so I reached out to a section chief and was like, "Hey, through other
Yeah.
recruiting friends that I had in the state, I was like, I'm AGR in Kentucky. This is what I'm looking for. What slots do you have?" I actually spoke to him before I spoke to Sergeant Cruz. I was probably talking to him a couple months ahead of fully making the decision to leave. He gave me Sergeant Cruz's contact information, and I signed those two pieces of paper and was here.
That's wild to
So
me.
you, you went to sleep one night in the Kentucky.
I did, and woke up the next
And-
morning in Indiana.
Yep. awesome.
Exactly.
She's like, man, this place
It's
is better.
super easy because if the had MEPS been involved, I don't know that I could have done it.
That's
Right?
that's
We all understand.
that's really incredible. So, how long was your IST process?
So the great thing that I loved about being an IST is you can kind of pick your own timeline. When I spoke to Sergeant Cruz, he's like, "Hey, when do you want to come to Indiana?" And I'm moving an entire family, 4 children, a husband, a dog. And he's like, "What time do you need?" And I told him I want to be in Indiana December 1st, and that's exactly when my contracted here started. So for me, it was like a 4-month time frame, but I chose for it to be that long.
Is it a PCS move? Are they paying for you to move up here, or how does that work? Because you're AGR, right?
It was a PCS move, but I also came when IPSA was down. So there was some obstacles that we had to overcome just due to IPSA and it being down when I made that transition.
Gotcha.
That's pretty cool. I can't believe it's 2 forms.
Yeah, I think like when Sergeant Carter went through her, she did go through the IPSA brownout that happened back in November 22 to really the end of January 23, and so there was some soldiers that were affected by that, and I apologize on mine for all that, but normally it's pretty smooth transition. Customer service is the biggest thing out of this, out of everything. That's our pillar on what we stand on, is taking care of soldiers, and just like she said, hey, when do you want to come? What's the best time frame for you?
We're all recruiters, so we've all heard, applicants say, "Oh, I heard that you're stuck in that state for X amount of years," right? Is there, validity to that? I mean, for an average soldier, what's the turnaround time? And I understand you can kind of pick your own timeline, but what if I wanted to IST to Florida right now? What would be the IST time frame for that?
There is no obligation for a time frame. Let's say if you went to Florida here in the next 2 months and you transferred, and then for some reason you wanted to switch to Texas, you can do that. You let your chain of command know you want to do the interstate transfer, and you get the packet set up, and that's it. You can move on.
And
You'd said that it's just a continuation of whatever your current time is. Is there a minimum amount of time that you still need to have on your current contract to successfully IST? Or
that's a good
if I'm
question.
6 months out from my ETS, can I be like, hey, I want to IST and finish my last 6 months somewhere else?
I see you smiling, Sergeant Cruz.
So that is one of the best questions I have ever heard.
Yeah, see, yours have been good questions. Mine was the best question.
So that regulation again is NGR 600-200, Section 5, 4-18, Bolig Echo. It says on there that you need to have at least 4 months left on your contract. Now, states do have their own nuances, but yeah, 4 months left is what the regulation states.
Wow.
That's it?
Yes,
crazy, I
there are
didn't know
some
What?
stipulations to that. Again, each state will have their own nuances, but per the regulation, it says you need to have at least 4 months left on your contract.
I truly thought it was a year. But that's because that would make sense, right? You know, your IST starting to a new unit, but wow, okay. This is pretty incredible. Going back to Florida, if I was to IST to Florida, do I keep my incentives if I have, you know, a GI Bill kicker or anything like that? Would I be able to keep those in my new state?
Yeah, that also is a great question too, because we get that all the time, and people get really worried. I know if I had a bonus and any incentives, I'd be that'd be a big thing in my mind. So what we see is, you know, on the bonus addendum, we'll start off with the first one, non-prior service bonuses. You know, a lot of those soldiers, E1 to E4, they get worried about maybe it might be recouped. Now, in your bonus addendum, there are stipulations, and an interstate transfer is one of them, to where it's not voluntary, right? You're leaving for a reason that you want to leave, and so a soldier will have to put in an ETP, which is an exception to policy, through the new state's incentives team, and then they'll send that up to NGB. I personally haven't seen any of them denied, as long as there's a legitimate reason, right? And it can't be, I just wanted to move to another state. You want to be able to pitch that, you know, to whoever is going to look at that piece of paper with a story.
So family need, career opportunity, educational opportunity,
Correct.
something to develop yourself or your family or better your position kind of thing.
Yeah, you want to develop that story because, you know, it's just going to be some person looking at it for 5-10 minutes. And if it makes sense for the soldier to move, then yes, they can retain their incentives, or it won't be recouped. But again, I'm not saying this is 100%,
No, yeah.
but as long as you put in the effort, I think you'll be fine.
That's pretty interesting. It's cool how they're looking at kind of the total soldier concept, right? Versus just saying, okay, if you're ISC, you're automatically not getting it, but they're going to look at that soldier, their situation, kind of like Sergeant Schweitzer had said, you know, new career, new education or family needs, whatever it is, and see if they can take care of that soldier. That's really interesting to hear. And the fact that you said you've rarely seen them denied, and I know you're dealing with, I don't know how many hundreds of ISTs a year, both
Yep.
in and out of Indiana. Mostly in, I'm sure.
Yeah, mostly in.
Mostly
Yeah,
in.
definitely.
That's definitely pretty cool to hear that.
Yeah, the whole sitting down when you're looking at a soldier, you know, you definitely don't want to burn them. Things happen, life happens, you
Yeah.
know. Even though we're wearing this uniform, we're still humans, and you know, like especially during COVID when that happened, a lot of people were moving, and you can just imagine, you know, with the financial burden they were already facing, and then recouping a bonus. So, pivoting towards re-enlistment bonuses, right? Because here's another one that comes up a lot. So your non-prior service bonuses are going to be tied to a UIC. Your re-enlistment bonuses are going to be tied to an MOS. So those are a little bit more easier to work with. So if we get somebody with a re-enlistment bonus on their bonus addendum, it'll say, you know, it's tied to that MOS. When they do switch over to a new state, that exception to policy that will still need to be processed to NGB will be facilitated a little bit more easier, and the approval process is a lot more better.
That's interesting to hear that. So if they're at 11 Bravo and they're switching to a different state and they still have that, it's easier to make that happen versus a re-enlistment bonus, or sorry, a non-prior service enlistment bonus.
Correct.
Is it the same for the post 9 so not the GI Bill kicker and things like that? Educational incentives?
Yeah, those will be fine.
Okay, cool.
So we've talked about Indiana, the things that we offer, hit on a few things. What would you pinpoint, and this is for both of you, something that Indiana specifically has that you're not seeing elsewhere that would be a good opportunity and would be a good draw for people to come? Basically, pitch me Indiana.
Pitch you Indiana, right? So we call Indiana the island of the Midwest. All right, there's everything here. We got beaches, we got the country life, we got the city life, the infrastructure that we have here in Indiana. When it comes to education, it's all around Indiana. You can really pursue just about anything you're looking for. If you wanted to become a lawyer like Sarnoto over here, you know.
Oh, is he going to law school?
I think he
Did I
is.
mention that? Oh my
Yeah, I
gosh,
think
I'm
I
sorry.
is. Yeah.
Must have missed it.
Darn.
You know, you can become one of his clients. If you want to go into the apprenticeships program and get trade skills, We have multiple areas that offer those. If you're wanting to do something in tech, the tech infrastructure is blowing up in Indiana. So we're seeing a lot of people wanting to come to us because of that job industry that's being built up. It's already established here in
Yeah.
Indiana. The second thing is that we see there's a lot of ties here to Indiana or just in the Midwest, and whether it's going to be Ohio, Michigan, Illinois, Kentucky, and because of that infrastructure that we have here, people are choosing to live in Indiana, but they still have those family ties to our border states. In regards to the Indiana Army National Guard, we have a wide variety of MOSs that you can pick from. Whether in the beginning you didn't have much choice, and now this is your opportunity. I would highly suggest that you take advantage of what is available and pursue what you always really wanted.
Sergeant Carter, having recruited in a different state,
Yeah.
now recruiting in Indiana, what are you seeing that we offer here that puts us, ahead of the competition?
So for me, even just being here in the last few months, the big one that I'm seeing is the SF. I have a
Yeah.
teammate who works well with, the unit over there at Atterbury, and he gets a lot of people from Missouri and Illinois who are coming to Indiana specifically because we do offer something that our bordering states may not. And that's, with the SF, that's a big one that I've seen just in the last couple months that I've been here.
Gotcha.
We've talked a lot about IST and ISR, but we kind of haven't talked about why you guys joined in the first place. So, why did you join the National Guard, Sergeant Carter, Sergeant Cruz, and what has been your most memorable experience here in the Army National Guard?
So for me, my dad actually served in the Indiana National Guard. I know I didn't start here, but my family is from here. And so I didn't know what to do with my life. I was 23, wanted to go to college, can't afford it. We all know how expensive college is now.
A little bit.
Right. I have a master's degree, so I understand.
Never's going to law school.
Yeah. He's going to law school. Yeah, I got it. So for me, it was the education benefits, and my recruiter may have offered me a $20,000 bonus. So it was definitely
Awesome.
money, education
Local
benefits for
recruiters.
me. As far as my biggest memorable event just in the National Guard, I'm a drill sergeant. I was actually the first female drill sergeant in the state of Kentucky. So
Oh,
for me,
awesome.
that was a big
Awesome.
step, something I always wanted to do, but you kind of put in the back of your head because you don't see a lot of National Guard drill sergeants. They're not really around. So I had that opportunity in 10 months postpartum and ran with it. So that's probably the biggest thing I'm probably most proud of in my career.
Now I understand the drill sergeant thing. Now I understand why I've been scared the entire time you've been sitting
It's
so
just
close
my
to me.
demeanor, yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and... You want to switch seats, sir?
I'm good.
You had mentioned, being a mother. What is that? How was, being postpartum and, having a child and with your National Guard obligations? What was that like? How were you able to juggle being a mother,
Right.
being a National Guardsman, being a drill sergeant?
I'm not going to lie, it's not easy at times. And that is a big reason why I actually reached out to Sergeant Cruz and moved here. I wanted to be closer to family, to have that better work-life balance, which I think is a huge part of and a huge benefit of being in the National Guard because it allows a lot of our soldiers to have both. That civilian life that we want, but that military service that we also want. So it kind of combines them together. As far as for me, it's all my kids know. I was in the Guard before I had children, before I was married. So they know mom and they know what I have to do. And so and they're proud of me for it. And that's a big reason why I continue to do it on those days, that we all have that we're like, I would rather do anything else than put on this uniform and go to work, which is any job. But they give me that motivation to keep going.
What's been your best memory here in the National Guard?
In Indiana,
We'll go with that one, but Kentucky's fine. You did spend 15 and a half years there.
besides the drill sergeant thing, just in general.
Yeah, just in general.
I love to deploy, honestly. Just having the opportunity to see the world, to go to countries. I've been to Iceland on a layover, Poland for training, Germany. I think just to be able to see the world that maybe I wouldn't be able to see, the National Guard has gave me that opportunity to travel and to help people in other countries that don't have what we have here in America.
To piggyback on the drill sergeant thing, and I hate using that phrase, I just used it, piggyback, I'm sorry. To add to that, what is one piece of advice you may have for someone that's nervous about going to basic training? From the drill sergeant side of it, what is some piece of advice you'd offer them?
My biggest thing, and I tell recruits this all the time, is you have to believe in yourself. I truly believe you can do anything you set your mind to, and that's in anything in your life. If you don't believe in yourself and believe that you can do it, you're not going to do it. So go to basic training and believe that you can do it, and you will be fine.
And
Drill
that's
sergeant's pass.
That is from a drill sergeant
It
that is on the record now. Sergeant Cruz, you started in the Navy, came to the National Guard. Why? And what has been your greatest memory here in the National Guard?
So let's see. I got off active duty in 2012, January 2012, and did the reserves for the Navy Reserves for about a year. I remember. So I grew up in South Bend, Indiana, right there on Grant Street, Prairie Avenue, and they have the South Bend Armory right there. And this was the old South Bend Armory. And I remember I would see them running on Prairie Avenue. And so, yeah, I'm sitting there, a little kid riding my bike. And, they had some green shorts and, the little silkies, and they're running. And I remember asking my mom a couple of times, I was like, who are those people? And she's like, they're heroes. And then as I grew older, I ended up, understanding that was the Indian Army National Guard. I wanted to do something that was closer to home, right? Like I felt like I served on active duty. I went all around the world, all around the United States. But I wanted to be closer to home and to be able to give back what was given to me. And when I made that decision to go ahead and join, I knew that it was going to be something, a new chapter in my life. And so I remember when I was getting ready to enlist, into the Indian Army National Guard, something always stuck in my mind from my previous Navy days into where I'm at now. And that is, no one is coming to save you. Get up and be your own hero.
Wow.
Like it.
Wow.
I like it.
That's incredible, Sergeant Cruz.
You actually had Noto speechless for a bit. And
I appreciate it.
I had to think about it.
Regular listeners know that that's not a common occurrence. So
that's incredible. You what a crazy, awesome story to share. And I love how, you wanted to give back not only to this phenomenal country, but to your own community. And obviously that opportunity is available to guardsmen because, we work for the state of Indiana, the great state of Indiana, and this amazing country as well. That's what an incredible story.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Speechless.
I liked it.
So to build on that, instead of using piggyback.
Thank you.
So, we asked most memorable experience, what it's meant to you, all that. And then you mentioned new recruits coming in and the advice you give them for basic training. I'm somebody fresh off the street considering military service. What advice would you give somebody that's considering joining the Indiana National Guard?
So for me, our job, right?
Mm-hmm.
Go talk to a recruiter because they're the most knowledgeable about what we have to offer, the benefits, the pros, the cons, the good, the bad, the ugly. We all see it. Go talk to a recruiter. 10, 15 minutes could completely change your life for the better.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what you don't know. So talking to them, it's probably the best thing I ever did because I didn't know. So I just talk to them. You're not losing anything.
Yep.
And to build off that, thank you there, Sergeant Carter. I would say that, knowledge is power. Regardless if you're going to sit down with, just one recruiter or multiple recruiters, go out there and see what's going to be best for you. If you're sitting there thinking about the Indian Army National Guard, like I said earlier, and that's a big thing is, nobody's going to come save you. Go out there and be your own hero. When you sit there and look in the mirror at the end of the day, all your thoughts come back to you at the end of the night when you're sitting there laying in bed, whether you accomplished multiple things or you failed or you just didn't take that chance, that will come back to you. And right before you go to sleep, I like going to bed knowing that I went out there and made something happen and created my own path. And it's a good feeling. Go out there and experience that.
Yeah. Awesome.
That's pretty incredible. Thank you, Sergeant Cruz, Sergeant Carter, for joining us today on this phenomenal episode of the Lima Charlie podcast. Anything to piggyback on?
No piggybacking.
No piggybacking
No
on this.
piggyback.
Perfect. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow us on YouTube, your favorite podcast platform, or follow us on Instagram. Lima Charlie out.
Well, it's just a lot of stations stepping on each other. Roger,